Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hi, thanks for joining me again. Ben here. Good to have you along. Today what I'm doing is I'm going to walk you through my 5-minute marketing review for HR tech companies. So my business, we help HR tech companies, HR software companies, to grow and market their business better, to win more customers, more clients. And we help them either through advisory to support existing teams, or we run some of the marketing processes. But in all cases, when we're talking to new companies or through the podcast, etc., I have a quick little 5-minute review that I do before I talk to companies. So when someone books a call with me to ask for help or to see what we do or for the podcast, etc., here's a quick process that I do. And it takes me 5 minutes, and it's a bit of a well-oiled machine for me now. We only deal with HR-related companies, so we know what we're looking for, but it's pretty simple. So when someone books a call with me, ask for their details, and naturally, I just go and look at who's booked that call, who's requested the call. So I go to LinkedIn, I look at the person's profile to get a context of them and possibly look at some of the posts they've done if they're related to the business, that sort of thing, but to get that context. But I then move on to the company's LinkedIn profile, seeing as I'm on the website, and then I would typically look at the About Us, see what the positioning is, what the offering is, and things like the geography and location, stuff like that. But also I'd then do a quick filter on the posts, and I would filter that in terms of chronological order because LinkedIn hides stuff naturally, it seems. So I have a look and see what kind of content's being talked about, what the positioning is, offerings, things like that. And then I move to the website itself. And what I'm doing there is looking for a few different things. Obviously, the big one is positioning. How is the business positioned? Because there's such vast competition out there, and I'll come to competition in a minute. But when I look at the website headline, the pictures, the images, the layouts, the content, all that kind of stuff, I'm asking myself, how does this position fit what their target market wants, needs, and where they are, all that sort of thing. So I'm looking at the positioning, and then the service offering. What has actually been offered and how is that structured, and how are they informing and educating the visitor to the website as to their offering? And this will include also calls to action. I mean, typically it's going to be book a sales call or book a demo, but how is that structured? Where are those offers made? Are there other calls to action about the place? I'll also be looking very carefully at the segmentation. So segmentation might be things like industries, roles, locations, use cases, because that's obviously a very powerful way to market an HR software product or SaaS product. And so that segmentation, is it there? How is it structured? If so, that gives me a lot of information really quickly. Being a marketer, I'll naturally look at what are the lead capture opportunities. So by lead capture, I mean, well, if we know that 90 to 95% of visitors to a website are not going to book that sales call, not going to book the demo, then we don't want to waste that traffic, especially if we've gone and paid for it in time, labor, ad spend, all that sort of stuff. So how are we trying to get that person to join the mailing list? And so you can do that lead nurturing to educate them both about the problem and the use case that they've got, but then also about the product offering and how you can fix their problems through your software. And so what lead capture opportunities are around the place? Is it just the generic, please join our boring newsletter, or are there other opportunities for people to join that mailing list? I'll then look for case studies and testimonials to see what's being talked about, what kinds of businesses are sharing those case studies and testimonials, because that's quite informative. Sometimes what you'll find is that all the testimonials, all the case studies are clumped together in one industry, yet the HR tech product website and all the messaging and everything, images and stuff, doesn't necessarily focus on that industry, or it tries to talk about other stuff. So that indicates to me that it has evolved from being a very narrow niche and now the business is trying to expand, or the business is possibly ignoring the fact that all the customers, clients are in one area. Why not play to that strength for the time being, build up that client base, that customer base, and then expand from there with more on board? So there's some questions to be asked there or to be answered. Then I'm moving on to the resources. So I talked about that lead capture and trying to educate, nurture the leads that visit the website. And a great way to do that is obviously by resources and educate your potential customers. So I'm looking to see what kind of types of resources there are and what are the topics that they cover. So is it in written form? whether that's blogs and ebooks and articles, things like that, or is there video content there? Are there webinars? Is there a podcast? Is there a YouTube channel? All that sort of stuff. But that's obviously quickly accessible. Have a look, see what's there. But I'm also looking for that cool factor, because don't forget, every HR tech company will typically have some sort of resources available for visitors and for potential customers. So what sets you apart? What kind of angles and stories and use cases, pain points are you covering in those resources, and how to best position them? There's that word again, positioning. It's just so crucial. Depending on the call or the issue at hand, I might then also do a quick SEO scan to see what kinds of topics, keywords, pages are being ranked for, and how they go and how they compare against other businesses and other websites out there, and potentially do a scan of any online advertising, whether that's Google ads or Facebook or LinkedIn, just to see, are they running ads? Where are they? Do they have good content in place for those ads? What's the typical funnel or the flow for those ads? And that might also include G2 Crowd or Capterra. Is the business present on there? If so, what's the positioning? Because sometimes if you type in a keyword such as, HR analytics, you'll get 100 or 200 results appearing. So how on earth do you stand out in that situation? So some of that copy is just crucial. And again, ties back to that positioning and analysis side of things. And then finally, like I said, this is a 5-minute scan for me, because that's all I do. Is I'm in the HR space. That's all I look at. So I get a very quick, clear idea of the positioning and the strength of the marketing and so on. I then sort of connect that mentally into the competition, knowing what the competition is out there. How does this business compare, both in terms of their offering and their positioning, and then the actual marketing and stuff? Because one element of competition also includes the do nothing. So make no change. If you're trying to sell into a large company and they're already doing something, managing their, their workforce turnover stuff through a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, they may say, well, do we need to go to software? So it's not just your competition. There's that inertia, that do not change or do not make any new purchase or anything like that. That can be one of the greatest competitors. So all of that is something that I would compare when I'm looking at that scan. So to wrap that up, what does all of this tell me? It tells me the strength of the positioning of the business. Is there a clear, USP, unique selling point or positioning that would make this business stand out to the ideal target market? What's the strength of the offering? So is it clearly portrayed? Is it enticing? Do people actually want it? And how's that structured and so on? And that can include the pricing as well, but that's fairly standard. And then how far along the marketing journey this company is. So it may be very basic because it's a brand new startup, or if it's a company that's evolved further along, there'll be more resources, there might be more segmentation, more case studies, more testimonials, in which case the marketing is more likely to be more sophisticated. By this stage, there'll be, for instance, podcasts and ad campaigns. So that, to me, tells me, it's either around optimizing those channels, potentially adding new channels, or looking at more of the tech partnerships, because that's a brilliant way of accelerating growth, is getting some of those B2B connections happening. So it's around optimization and then scaling it up for those more advanced companies. Lead nurturing and resources, so what's in place there, and are they using that, or are they just wasting traffic? That's something else that it tells me. And marketing channels that are being used by that company, get an idea of what's in play, what could be added, what could be improved, etc. And then lastly, how they fit in against their competition. So the competition may be other local providers, it could be software companies locally or nationally, but also internationally. SaaS is everywhere these days, so it doesn't need to be just in your country. It can be a business coming from somewhere else that adds new language or adds a new focus to your geographic region. So your risk is greater. And of course, the competition includes that doing nothing thing that I spoke about. So when I'm looking at that, within that 5-minute scan, that is a big question, because if that positioning, that strength of that positioning is not clear, then it's going to be pretty hard. You can do all sorts of marketing tricks, but it's such a great place to start. It's getting that clear in the first place and getting that offering right. So 5-minute scan, obviously, normally with clients, we do a lot more. There's client analysis, service analysis, competition analysis, and we learn so much from that. But before a phone call, that's the kind of quick review that I would do to get a sense. And then obviously you can dive in with questions and feedback and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I tell you all of this is that If this is me doing the review, imagine a customer doing it. They will spend more than 5 minutes. I do it quickly because I know the industry and that's all I do is marketing for HR related companies. But a potential customer, whether that's a chief HR officer or an HR manager or a learning development person, whatever it may be, they will do a similar process. They'll look up you, they'll look up your company, they'll look up your website, they'll have a look around at what you've got. They may look at the demo stuff, they may look at some of your resources, but they will be comparing you to doing nothing and to the competition. And if they find you through online advertising channels, then they'll be comparing your ads. Will they click on your ad? Will they not click on it? If they click on it, will they take action, or will you not have that sort of conversion funnel in place? All of these things come into play. So it can be worth you taking a similar 5 minutes, go through the stuff that I told you about, the LinkedIn stuff, the website, the resources, the SEO and ads, and comparing it to competition and thinking, well, where do we stack up? How do we stack up in all of this? And if there are opportunities to improve, what can we do? How do we do it? Of course, if you want to improve, if you want to scale up, if you want to make adjustments or either try new channels or just make the existing ones better, you definitely get in touch with me via the getmorehrclients.com website. Get in touch via the services page and we can have a conversation. I can explain what other companies are doing in the field, anonymously, of course, but you might pick up some ideas and think, well, we could do something together. Hope that helps and all the best with it.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks and see you next time.